Chapter 4. Mufumbi turned and smiled when he noticed Kayla. "Will you sign our petition?" he asked. Amber whispered fiercely in Kayla's ear. "No, tell them no." "What's it about?" Kayla asked, pulling free of Amber's grip. Mufumbi presented her with a handheld computer notebook with a short list of names that had been signed with the special pen attached to it. "We're working with a senator named David Young on a campaign called Decode," Ezekiel said, coming alongside Mufumbi. "Young wants serious curbs put on the barcode. He's working to pass laws that control where and when it can be used. Like on highways," Mufumbi added, "he's trying to pass a law prohibiting states from making barcodes a requirement at all tolls." Amber came up behind Kayla. "What's wrong with that?" she challenged. "Because the government could track your every move," Ezekiel replied. "If you haven't done anything wrong, then who cares? It's the principle of it," Mufumbi argued. "Our civil liberties have been shrinking ever since the turn of the last century. We lost a lot of civil rights because people became convinced it was the only way to stay safe. We've been losing more freedoms and rights ever since." "I don't feel like that. I can do whatever I want," Amber argued back. "There are no freedoms I miss having. I haven't broken any laws, so I don't care who knows what about me. I have nothing to hide." "You should have the freedom to travel without having your every move monitored by the government," Mufumbi replied. "Don't you agree to that?" "I still say that if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about," Amber insisted. "Only criminals and terrorists need to worry about that." "What if the British had been able to track George Washington during the Revolution?" Mufumbi said. "Or what if slavers knew where runaways were on the Underground Railroad?" "That's so over," Amber scoffed. "This is the 21st century. Maybe, but maybe it still applies. Besides, wouldn't you like to know what's in the barcode?" Mufumbi insisted. "What if there's stuff coded in there that isn't true?" Amber waved him off dismissively. "You're so paranoid. I'm sure something like that has happened. You could find someone to call and have it fixed." She turned to Kayla. "We have to get to class." "You go ahead," Kayla replied. "I want to hear more about this." Amber shot Kayla an insistent look. "Kayla," she urged. "I'll be right there." Amber rolled her eyes and hurried off down the hall. "Your friend thinks you're making a big mistake," Mufumbi commented. "Yeah, she's pretty banged out that I'm talking to you," Kayla said with a quick laugh. "She thinks you guys are crazy and dangerous." "She's got a lot of company," Ezekiel said. "Thanks for the gum," she said quietly to Mufumbi. He nodded. "How you doing?" "Been better." She wanted to get off this topic quickly. "Tell me more about Decode," she said. "Ezekiel's our Decode expert," Mufumbi said. "All Senator Young is saying is that there should always be an alternative to the barcode. That way you're free to get the stupid tattoo or not get it," Ezekiel told her. "It's simple, really." Kayla reached for the petition and signed. "Okay, an independent thinker," Ezekiel cheered. Nedra appeared at his side and ran her hand along his arm. "I have to get to my locker. Are you coming?" "Yeah, sure," he replied. Nedra tugged, and he let her pull him away. August and Allison joined Mufumbi and Kayla. Allison handed Kayla a magazine. "Check our zine, Not You Too," she offered. "It'll tell you about Decode." "That's the name of our website, too," August added. He pushed some buttons on his small computer, and the website opened just as the final morning tone sounded. "Astral," Kayla said, impressed with the wildly colorful graphics. "I'll check it out on my computer later." Kayla hurried to her class and slid into her seat just as her world literature teacher was about to shut the door. Their assignment was to open the e-readers built into their desks and finish reading an article in the Tribune e-Journal. Instead, she folded the zine over her e-reader screen, flattened it, and began to read. Not You Too. Be more than a cog in the machinery. First your food, then your soul, by Allison Miner. You all know Global One, the worldwide corporate superpower that has been unofficially controlled just about everything behind the scenes since 2011. You know them because their name is on everything from your cereal box to the high-speed bus you ride to school. It's even on our country's leader. Our current president, billionaire Loudon Waters, was one of the founding members of Global One. It's clear that he's only concerned about increasing Global One's fortune and power. He couldn't care less about our liberties or freedoms. All he and his advisors care about is maintaining global domination to secure their obscene wealth. If you think I'm paranoid, consider this. Global One already owns all of the food in the world. No kidding. The entire world. All the food. Way back in the 1990s, biotech companies began splitting different genes into already existing plants. They created some new plants and they changed the flavor, taste, and shape of others. They made some crops drought resistant or able to repel bugs and immune to weed killers. They called these new plants GMOs, genetically modified organisms. They took out patents on everything they created, which meant they owned these new creations. Oh, and they did one other very interesting thing. They created seeds that don't regenerate new crops. They were called terminator seeds. For centuries, farmers have been growing new plants from the seeds they got for free from their harvests, but their crops weren't as bright, big, or high-yielding as the biotech crops. If they wanted to compete, they needed biotech seeds, seeds that they had to buy new every year, and eventually those biotech seeds mixed with the other seeds, so the biotech companies began to claim ownership of those too. During this time, a company owned by Global One began to quietly buy up all the smaller biotech corporations, and there is only one biotech company in the entire world, AgroGlobal. Face it, any group that controls the world's food controls the world. AgroGlobal owns all the food, and if they decide not to sell seed to a certain group or a nation, they can do that. Any group who defies AgroGlobal can last just one growing season before they begin to starve. They control you too. They know everything about you, where you've been, what you've bought, what your doctor prescribed for you, what magazines and books you read, and more, much more. Global One knows. They invented the tattoo and introduced it in Europe, then Asia, now here. When you get the barcode tattooed on your wrist, you might as well be a plant because you're about to be gobbled up by Global One. The Barcode Can Be Useful by Mufumbi Taylor. Read Your Bible by Nedra Harris. In the King James Version of the Bible, Revelation 13:16-18 warns about the Antichrist and his evil plan. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and this number is 666. The three limit posts that are in lined barcodes correspond to the number 666. They are the three limit posts that guide the scanner. The two at the edge are named guard bars, and the central one is the central pattern. Special studies have shown that these three limit posts indeed show the image of 666. And here's something else to think about. The barcode tattoo was first introduced in the United Federation of Europe, like Global One, on June 16th, 2016. 61616 or 61616. Think carefully before you get tattooed. Decode Now, Support Dave Young by Ezekiel Morel. Is there a way to fight the tyranny of a barcode, or is it hopeless? It's not hopeless, and there is a way. Join Senator David Young, the junior senator from Massachusetts, in his Decode campaign. Join now. Decode is a group working to defy the tyranny of the barcode tattoo. They propose a new set of laws that will guarantee us the right to privacy, the Young Amendments. Our society uses credit cards now, and now e-cards. All our movements and purchases have been tracked by these codes for so long that we don't even care anymore. But with the barcode, we're being expected to wear all that information on our bodies. At least back a few years ago, there would have been a choice. Until 2020, you could still pay with cash. They were token lanes on the highways, and although there still are, who knows how long that will last. The Transit Authority, run by Global One, is campaigning hard to eliminate them. At one point, you could choose not to have a credit card. Your medical records were still between you and your doctor. Much about you could be discovered through a credit card or e-card is true, but the barcode, our last shreds of privacy, are being destroyed. Dave Young is trying to make sure this doesn't happen, so support the Young amendments and contact decode@senate.gov. There's more to this barcode thing than what we talk about in the zine, Mufumbi told Kayla after class that afternoon. She'd been on her way to lunch when she saw him standing by the cafeteria door trying to distribute the zine. What more do you think there is? She asked. He shook his head. Not sure, but the articles that come out of Young's office are scary. It's like he's trying to tell us that we have to take this really seriously without coming out and saying exactly why. A student passed by and he thrust the zine in front of her. Decode now, he urged her. She grabbed the zine without even looking at him and stuffed it in her bag as she walked on. Ezekiel came alongside them with a stack of zines in his arms. How's it going? He asked Mufumbi, and he smiled at Kayla. Kids aren't exactly lining up for them, Mufumbi reported. That's okay, Ezekiel assured him. The movement is just beginning. It'll pick up speed as people become more informed. 4 guys from the varsity football team came out of the cafeteria laughing and pushing one another playfully. Their barcode tattoos flashed beneath their varsity sweaters as they horsed around, and when they caught sight of Ezekiel and Mufumbi, their eyes narrowed. A tall, blond guy, Todd Myers, stepped forward. I thought we told you freaks to put that little magazine away, he said. Mufumbi thrust a copy towards him. You might find it interesting, even if you already have the tattoo. You can choose alternative forms of payment and ID. It's not too late. Todd and his 3 teammates formed a semicircle in front of Kayla, Ezekiel, and Mufumbi. Get lost. We have the right to express our opinions, Ezekiel defied them. This is still America, at least the last time I checked. Kayla folded her arms, unwilling to leave or let them know she was scared. Mufumbi and Ezekiel all stood firm. Do you have some problem with our government? Todd demanded. I don't have any problem with America, Ezekiel replied. I have a problem with Global One and their fascist tactics. It's not the same thing. What's the president ever done to you? Todd challenged. Global One is cheating me out of the rights I have as an American, Ezekiel replied. They'd work behind the scenes without letting senators and members of Congress know what's happening. Loudon Waters isn't a president, he's a corporate dictator. Ezekiel finished the last word. Todd flung him across the hall, slamming him into the bank of lockers. The football players raised a clenched fist and pulled it back, poised to strike, but Mufumbi leapt onto it. 2 more football players grabbed Mufumbi and threw him into the wall. Hey, Kayla shouted. This distracted them for the second required for Mufumbi to slip out of their grasp. But as Mufumbi jumped back, one of the football players grabbed his shirt and swung him in a wide arc. He hurtled into Kayla, knocking them both across the hall into more lockers. Kayla's face hit the locker vent, and her cheek scraped it as she was tugged to the ground by the weight of Mufumbi's hand entangled in her backpack. A sharp whistle blew and the football players jumped back. Ezekiel scrambled to his feet, his forehead bleeding. What's going on here? Boomed Mr. Dugan, the science teacher and football coach. These guys are disrespecting the United States, sir, Todd reported breathlessly. Coach Dugan looked at Ezekiel. He spotted the zines sprawled across the floor and nodded. Morrell, what did I tell you about these things? You said they make some people mad, but you didn't say we weren't allowed to distribute them, Ezekiel answered. My guys, all of you, get out of here, and don't let me find you fighting on school grounds again. Coach Dugan snapped at his players, who hurried down the hall away from them. Morrell, Taylor, come with me, and bring your papers. You too, Mrs. Reed, come on. We didn't do anything wrong, Kayla insisted, and she brushed her hand along her cheek, and it came up streaked with blood. Look what they did to me, to us. Ezekiel's right cheek was already a yellow tinged purple. Mufumbi pressed his left arm to his chest and winced painfully. You can see the nurse after you see the principal, Mr. Dugan said. Those other guys, your team, they're the ones who should be seeing Mrs. Harmon, Kayla argued. Coach Dugan was already walking down the hall, leading them to the principal's office. Mrs. Harmon met them in her steel and glass office. Don't we have the right of free speech? Ezekiel challenged her when she told them they could no longer distribute Not You Too. You have the right to express your political views as you like, she replied in her smooth, unflappable way, but by distributing your paper in the paperwork in the hallways you are distributing